Hello, I'm Vice Mayor Steve Kay, and we are on York Street in what's known as NoLi, or North Limestone neighborhood. And I'm here with Chris Nunn, who is the Director of
Design.
Chris Nunn, who is the Director of Design and Construction for NoLi, the Community Development Corporation. And we're in front of some of the construction that they're doing on York Street. And Chris is here to talk with me about what they're doing, why they're doing it, what they're about. So let me just start by saying a little bit about, I guess, NoLi and the Community Development Corporation, then we'll talk about the housing.
Great. So just generally speaking, we are a nonprofit CDC, Community Development Corporation, which is, we have a place-based mission to revitalize this neighborhood in an equitable way, which means that it affords opportunities for everybody in the community, regardless of race, age, socioeconomic circumstance, education level, all those things.
So is it fair to say that a part of the mission is to improve the neighborhood, but to improve it in such a way that it includes the people who are already living here?
Absolutely. I think the eternal struggle is how you make something better without making it more expensive. And I think what we're looking at here today is a perfect example of our attempts to do that, where we've gone through a number of different sort of alternative paths to achieve affordability without creating a traditional delivery, a traditional product. So if you think about something like Habitat for Humanity, for example, the way that they are able to provide affordable housing is that they have volunteer labor, they have donated land, and they have a big infrastructure of development that feeds into their operating support and their operations. So being a fledgling organization, we're only 3 years old, we don't have those sorts of resources developed yet. So we had to really try and structure this project in a way that we could make the numbers work. So that entailed writing a grant for purchase of the property 3 years ago. That also entailed applying to the city's Affordable Housing Fund and asking them to subsidize a portion of the money that we needed for the project in order to make the project net zero. So basically, we're not making any money on the project. We are leveraging the equity of this land against construction lines, and then the money that we're getting from the housing fund in order to build these houses and sell them at the amount that we believe they will appraise for. So,
and you're hoping that the cost of these, and we're looking at one that's just about completed, or
the one here that you see, 138 York, is complete. It was completed December of last year. So it's been occupied for over a year. And that one was a remodel, and we learned the hard way through that process that remodeling is much more expensive on structures like these because they're not substantially built. There is a lot of rot, there's a lot of, just initially they were not built with the best materials. It was kind of whatever they could find, which tends to be the case with workforce housing, where they don't necessarily, 100 years ago, didn't have the funds to pay for brand new lumber. They paid for offcuts that they got from job sites. So that one we learned was somewhat cost prohibitive.
Harder to do it that way than to start from scratch.
And so then we kind of regrouped and decided that new construction was the way to go. So we actually demolished 8 houses that were all in varying states of condemnation. They were all vacant with the exception of the 2 that stood here, which we have relocated those folks and are actually building a house for the people that lived in 146. So they'll be buying that house once the process is complete, which we're very excited about.
Price points?
Price points, so these are, we're going to sell these for around $80,000. We're still really trying to sort out our delivery method in terms of how to pre-qualify people, and again in an equitable way, so it's not necessarily made available to people who have the most access to resources. So we're trying to make sure that that's a very defensible process.
Yeah, and I know from my work with the Affordable Housing Board that there are restrictions on, since you've got some support from the city through that fund, that there are some restrictions on the income level of the people who will qualify to buy these houses?
Correct. So these will be deed restricted for 15 years at 80% of the area median income. So that's a number that's set by the Federal Housing and Urban Development Department, HUD. And so for 2015, area median income is about $60,000. So 80% of that.
That's for a family of?
It's for a family of 4, I believe.
Okay.
So for 80 AMI for an individual is $38,200. So they have to make that much or less to qualify to buy these houses.
Gotcha. And those are folks, I think it's fair to say, who, on the regular housing market, the market rates, they would not be able to purchase a home. It would be very difficult for them.
It would be very difficult, and I think especially in this neighborhood, if you look at the available building stock, you can either buy a $20,000 house that's been disinvested for decades, and you can either leave it the way it is as a huge energy suck, and structural
cost
issues
of keeping it
correct. So you can either buy something for cheap, $20,000 to $30,000, and then put lots of money into it, which is what we did with that one.
Yep.
Or you can buy a house that's been flipped, which I know there's a lot of discussion about that process, which we won't get into. And you can buy that for $200,000. And so you look at that gap, and there's a huge gap. And so we're really trying to provide a product that kind of meets in the middle, where it's a new house, it's well built, it is small. These are 700 square feet.
And energy efficient?
Energy efficient. Yeah, I mean, obviously, beyond meeting all existing energy codes, these, just by virtue of their size and their orientation and everything, will be much more energy efficient than the baseline. And we are working on how to confirm that as a marketing point as well. But as you can see, we have some reclaimed material that's going into these.
So let's talk about, well, you said reclaim. Let's go to this. So they'll take a shot of this forest, but these materials you've gotten from where?
So this is flooring that, this is wood that came out of the warehouses off Leestown Road, right by the railroad tracks. That's all been reclaimed and is now getting turned into flooring. And so we're excited to have that sort of things like that have embody some of that local history. Obviously those tobacco warehouses are defunct now that the tobacco industry has taken a major hit. So now there is another sort of life for this material, and to have it represent that history and also create something that I think is very beautiful and very durable, so that you don't have to have plastic laminate or the cheapest material option.
Okay, and we can get a shot of that also when we when they have time, they'll come back. And I know that there's a house two doors down where that flooring is being laid right now. Very interesting.
The one thing I did want to say is that we were talking about designs. These, while they're all basically on the same footprint, that sort of shotgun layout, there are 3 different designs, and there's a shipping container house that's garnered some attention just by virtue of its sort of newness to the Lexington market. We're also doing 2 houses that are made totally out of plywood, so they don't have any studs, and those plywood pieces are being cut on a CNC machine, a computer-guided router.
So say a little bit more about that. What does that mean? So
there are no studs. Typically, there's no framing. It's basically they're building frames out of plywood, and they'll be starting that in March. So we can, if anybody's interested, they can come check that process out. But it's an innovative concept where it's a way of reducing material usage. It's a way of using plywood, which is arguably a more sustainable material than solid sawn lumber. It provides a wider wall so you can get more insulation into it, so it's more energy efficient. It's a wide open space, so you don't have supporting walls. So there's a lot of components to it.
And durability, I know that there's been issues in the past with plywood and how long it will actually last.
Yeah, I think that getting all the formaldehyde out of plywood and just the binding agents that they use now are very durable in terms of water resistance and longevity.
So that should not be an issue.
No, I mean the same material is used pretty much on every construction for roof sheathing. We're just using it more widely than it's typically used as wall sheathing and roof sheathing. So
and the shipping containers. That's in process. You're working on that right now.
Again,
we can get them to
they're a couple months away from completion on that. They're basically 2 40-foot shipping containers that they've mated together and turned into one 640 square foot space. And we're very excited to demonstrate how that could be another delivery method. Not the only solution to affordable housing, but I think our mission, my mission broadly, is to demonstrate different ways of doing infill development, creating affordable housing, and demonstrating some of these technologies so that it is, so that other people can learn from that. Because if other people can learn from it and they can pick and choose and say, oh, that worked, that didn't work, then I think our mission is to sort of act where other people can't necessarily make the numbers work.
Okay, so you've got seven units here? 6 units here. 6
new units,
and what's the long-term vision, goal, if you're 10 years ahead, what's going to happen? What would you like to see happen?
I would love to see a circumstance where there is a very rich mixture of affordable and market rate housing in the neighborhood, because I think that socioeconomic mixture creates healthy and vibrant neighborhoods. I would not want to see everything be the same design. I would not want to see everything be the same price point, because I think then you start creating these sort of silos where you don't have that vibrancy of the different perspectives and backgrounds. So I would say 10 years from now, there would be the houses that can be renovated, have been renovated. People who've owned their houses, like the Cheneys here, who've lived here for almost 50 years, we can help them stay in their house. Their children and grandchildren can stay in the house. We can help them fix it up. People who want to buy these houses, either in the neighborhood or from outside the neighborhood, there's a healthy mixture of that. So it's not trying to bring people in from outside exclusively, and not exclusively trying to cater to only the people in the neighborhood.
Okay, so. And then as we wrap up, just a quick word about the NoLi CDC and its larger mission.
Well, yeah, I mean, our larger mission is to really work on the livability of the neighborhood in an equitable way. So that means we are doing stormwater work through the water quality grants through the city. We operate the night market, which is a once-a-month street fair that promotes economic development. We're advocating for access to other economic startup grants for starting businesses, access to local foods, locally produced foods. We partner with people on projects like MusicWorks, which is a free music education program. And so really I see us as a holistic sort of clearinghouse for hearing the interests and the perspectives of the neighborhood, and then being a facilitator to go after the money, find the people that know how to have the expertise to make these things happen, so that people can say, hey, that was my idea, and look, now it's part of my community.
Great. Okay, well, I appreciate your being out here, especially as chilly as it is. I don't know why we always picked such a cold day to do this, but we did. And I want to thank all of you for listening. Once again, I'm Steve K., Vice Mayor. With me is Chris Nunn, who is the Director of
Design and Construction. I know.
Too complicated. Chris Nunn with the NoLi CDC, and I encourage all of you to come out to North Limestone and take a look for yourself. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.